Week 10. There's a thing where my first 2 years I screen recorded everything. I always started everything with so, and somebody like made an art piece of like showing me saying so. So I try really hard not to say so at the beginning of all my videos. So today, week 10. Anyway, so this is our world we were working on. So let's talk about level streaming. They're underneath Windows. There's another one you might not have seen called Levels, and it's a way for us to turn things off and on. And the way these could be organized is you make a persistent level. Like by default, everything is called persistent level, the thing that's always there. Okay. If I'm working with other people, we always start off with a completely blank persistent level, and that way, if you load it up, you don't actually mess up any of the other sub-levels. It's just a blank thing. Ultimately, like your pawn might go there or your cameras might go there, but usually it's completely blank with maybe some sort of like level blueprint about how you switch between levels. So let's kind of start from scratch and say new level, and I'm just going to do an empty level, and it's going to be called, let me save it, and it's going to be called P, which is stands for persistent, and then like P main or whatever, like it's the main level, and that's how I know which one starts off. Okay, and now I can also create a bunch of other different levels, and we can call them sub levels. So a new level, let's do this one, and let's call this one streaming level. Let me add something to it real quick, like a awesome particle system. Yes. This is now the coolest level I've ever made. There we go. And then we save this one, and we can call this one L or SL for streaming level. Particles, right? I can have all my lights in another level. This one is going to be the VR basic level. And this one we'll just add in a couple of interesting lights. Let's just go to the lights section. Lights, and we have some point lights and some spotlights and such. There we go. Let's save this one. This is L lights, my lighting level, and then we can have another one that's for geometry or something like that. And so now, if I go back into the old persistent, filter by levels, we have P main right here, and it's blank. If I go over to my levels tab, I can load in, add existing. I can create a new one, or I can add existing ones. And we're going to do level particles, and we're going to do level lights, and then I have the maps I've been doing for the entire semester. Let's not even worry about that one. Let's just start with these blank ones. Cool. And so they're all on top of each other, right here in the center. Cool. And then these, you can see which one I'm in by what I'm double clicking, right? And like this one's blue, this one's now blue, and so you only can manipulate levels that you're in. The other ones I'm not in them, but they're showing, they're visible, and there's a little blue dot there. That means this currently, if I hit play, would be completely black because I need to load it using blueprints. The little blue dot means it's a blueprint loaded map. Okay. But if I don't want to use blueprints, like blueprints meaning like those trigger boxes I showed when we walked through the content examples, right? You're hitting trigger boxes and it was loading levels and unloading levels. And that's what those nodes are called, loading, unloading, right? I can say, let's go to level blueprints. And I could say load level, load a stream level. And then I can also unload stream levels. The make visible after load means that you're going to load it and then also show it. Otherwise, you can load it and then keep it invisible and make it visible later on. And then for unloading it, so this should block unload, meaning it stops the experience from moving forward until it's finished. Sometimes these things take time. It's a huge level, and it's blocking everything. I don't want to see my level load and then see shaders compile, and I want it to only be ready when it's ready to go. And that's when you like add a progress bar, because you want the whole thing to load and be ready for everyone they enter. I would say I've pretty much abandoned doing this via blueprints for VR because we want to make it seamless. I only do already always loaded. So that's what these nodes are if you never need to do them on key presses. But let's right click on it and say visibility or change streaming method. Instead of being streamed in by blueprints, just it's always loaded. That blue dot goes away. Always loaded. Sorry. Always loaded. And now when I hit P, they're both there, ready for me. Cool? Bam! Bam! Anyway, apparently the back of my camera is more powerful than the front. Anyway. Okay, cool. So now that I have all these levels loaded, I can start thinking about how I manipulate them. Let's say I want to move this entire room to the side, right? Because I want to put them side by side by side. I made it on 0, 0, 0, but I want to move it down. So there are some options for that. I could, let's see, and then you can also merge these levels if you need to, but right now I'm going to keep them separated. Okay. I will do this the old-fashioned way. If I come over to these view options, I can say only show me things that are in my current level. Okay. So now it only shows me the particle things, right? That changes. It only shows me the lights, and if I go to my persistent, I'll see nothing. Right? So it's only showing me things in this outliner from the level that I have I'm currently in. And it'd be very easy now. Let's move all of these options, these objects. So now this whole level can be moved over this way. Right? I've just said Control A and all of them are there. And in the same way, I can go over to the lights and say Control A and then move everything over this way or down. So this is how we can manipulate and move around these sub-levels. But then if I wanted to, and I wanted to work on my own level, right? So right now I'm working with all three levels. I'm interchanging between all three of them. And this is like something I'd only do if I told the two people I'm working with, hey, I'm using all the levels right now. But if one person's level was to work on lights, another person's will work on particles, I can just do them individually and just come over to lights and particles by themselves. There it is, ready to go. So I'm not bothering the other person. I'm not conflicting. I'm not checking out their file they need, right? So this is kind of goes along with the quick tutorial last week of how to do version control. Is that you're going to be checking out just the level you're working on and ignoring that empty one that's at the very, very top. Okay? And only when you're together would you work on all of them at the same time. So that's one thing. And then if I go up to this persistent, again, one of the few things I do put in here are cinematics. Alright, so I now have a sequencer, and that's the only thing in this persistent level. And underneath this track, I have a level visibility track. I can load in, I have a visible tab, and I can also load in a hidden tab. And it's just a text file. So I'm going to trim it. How do I do a trim? Edit, trim to the right. Or I could have just split it. Let's undo that. Edit, split, and edit, split. So my first level, which is L lights, which I can copy and paste the name right here. Go back to this level, my sequencer, and it's going to start off being the visible one. If I come over here, right click on it, go to properties, and put the level name. It's there, hit enter to make sure it goes in, but then when it's over here, I want it to be hidden. Then the opposite way, I want my L particles to be hidden at first and then visible later on. Right? So there we go. This is how you turn them on if it's on a timeline. So you know that your camera's on a it's going through a cloud, right? And so one's on, you go to the middle of the cloud, and then you know that you can turn the other one off, right? They're always loaded, so it's seamless, but you're just toggling visibility, so it's not rendering it on your graphics card, so you can improve your frame rate. It's just being stored in RAM at that point. And then we were talking about transitions. At the very, very least, we can always have a fade track, and the fade track is 0 means it's no fade, and then 1 means it's faded out. Make this autoplay, and then let's take our pawn from this level, right? It's in lights. I'm going to cut it, and if I come back into persistent and I paste it, it's now in my persistent, right? So I'm only working with the one that I'm double clicking on, right? It's no longer in there, and usually all I have is my pawn and my sequencer, and then so there we go. Fades in. You can give that a little more time, and fades out. And then if I hit play, fading in. Oh, whoa, it's over there. Oh, okay. And then fades out. Right? I just made a VR experience. It's fantastic. So that's quite functional, but that you guys get the idea of this. It's super handy, and I wish I'd known this. I wish this had always been around, because this is super straightforward than doing all this blueprint stuff and all this other kind of crazy stuff. So this gets us going with that. Let's go jump into video really quick. All right. So oops, stop rendering. So we have a specific pipeline for doing video, and the one thing is that it has to be in a folder called movies, right? Videos have to be in a folder called movies. It'll tell you if you're not doing it correctly. So if we go to our root and we make a folder called movies, and then on our hard drive there should also be a folder called movies. Let's go back here, say movies, find me in my Explorer. So now I have a folder called movies there, and let's grab our videos from the imports folder. And I have a Equirectangular one, and I have a person one. I'm sure half of you know what person one I'm going to be using. There we go. And then I come over here. They're not in here. I have to now import them into, oops, imports. You be quiet. Oh, it's the forward slash and backslashes thing. Go up to where? Imports, or sorry, movies, content, movies, and then it's import them. It's not importing the movie file, it's just putting a file referencer. This is referencing a movie that's on my hard drive, right? And if you didn't have it in the movies folder, it would be an orange exclamation point here. This needs to be inside the project, because if you package it, it wouldn't package the movies unless it's inside the project file structure. Okay, and so just a quick note: videos are the media player is a different engine than the game engine. So it's kind of interdependent. Videos always play back consistently. If your game engine slows down in rendering or speeds up in rendering, that doesn't affect the videos. So one thing that's worth note is that, like, if you guys watch neurospeculative Afrofeminism, a lot of the exposition that happens at the beginning of it is a video that's playing behind you. And when we did an export of that for 360 for Gear VR, we had to actually pay somebody a crap ton of money, because you have to frame lock that. You have to basically frame step and render each frame side by side so that they're matched together. It's something that neither engine supports currently, and people make big bucks doing render farms for doing this kind of stuff. So if you do video content, the only way to lock it into the engine is to actually put it into a flipbook, make it one of those sprite sheets, and then the engine's rendering it back. Okay, so but those have the limitations of size and resolution. Anyway, so now we have a video player, or sorry, we have video file references for our hard drive, and we need to bring in a media player. Okay? And we're going to do video here. So this is a media player. Okay. Just do it. And when I gave it a name, it created a texture file. So this video player, if I play it, is sending Shia LaBeouf to a video texture.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!
We're running out of time, but it's here. It's on YouTube. I don't know why he did it that way, but he did it. So obviously this could be a texture or a material. Sorry. Okay, great. And we want to play on open. So when you open the file, play the file. Okay, we can also say open and be still at the very beginning, but I don't see the reason for that on this one. We're going to have to do playback. Cool. So this is my player that's playing to a texture. I need to make another player that's actually that's going to play my other video. Okay. So let me go ahead and save all this crap. And then coming to my material, I don't want to have it, I want it to be emissive. Like usually when you do like TVs and things, they glow, right? They have a glow to it. So I want him to not take any shadows. It looks kind of funny. I'm just going to make it unlit as well. There you go. And I'm going to make it masked, I think. All right. So we have a green screen. What do we need to get rid of? The green. So what do we have right here? We have the green channel. I can say 1 minus, give me the invert, and send it out. But it's not, I don't have enough control over it that way, so I need to add in a little multiplier, and I'm going to use a power, a little square rooty thingy. Alright, and then we could poke a hole in there and see what's going on, and then I'm going to promote this to a parameter. Cool. And then let's bring in a plane. Oh, come on, let's bring in a plane. And we want the plane to be hanging out with us as soon as we hit play. Come hang out with us, Shia. And be big. So I know this video is like a 16 by 9, so I can quite literally say like 16 by 9, and I have the right aspect ratio, or 9 by 16. And then I can lock them, and then when I scale it back down, it scales down to the aspect ratio. And let's put the material on. Oh no! Oh no!
Just do it.
I mean, this is one way to do it. Faux show. Why is it like weird in space? There we go. So what we'll do is the opposite. Unlock it. Make it 9 by 16 again. No. 16 by 9. There you are, buddy. 1, lock, and then we bring it back down. Or just make it huge. He deserves to be large. Let's just do it that way. Okay. So let's bring, actually what we need to do is make an instance of that. And bring it there. So now the instance is on there. You can say instance. Cool. Now let's give it a drive, shall we? Cool. Just do it. Pause. There we go. And let's start. It doesn't need to be inverted. We're doing the opposite. Well, that's one way of doing it, is doing the opposite of the thing. Okay, let's go. Oh, I'm doing it from the red channel. No one told me. You guys saw that and you let me. There we go. Cool, so now we can like drive it back. There we go. Presto changeo. Isn't that pretty awesome? Alright, so here we are. But he's not playing. We have to actually tell it. The player can play anything, but we need to actually associate a player with a video file, right? The player can play any file, but by default, it doesn't just like play this list of videos. We have to tell it to play the video, or to open the video, and then when you play the video, it'll open. It will play on open. There you go. So let's go into our persistent. And because I put this in the main level, it's easy for me to do in the level blueprint there. But you'll notice that now I have sub-level blueprints. Each sub-level has its own blueprints, right? So that you can work on them separately when they merge together, all the functionalities, all they ever using key presses and all that kind of stuff. I just did this in the main. It could totally be in one of the other ones. We just would work on those different level blueprints. Okay, so open up the regular one. And then on event begin play, I want to open or actually let's make a media player. Let's say media player. And what kind of file type is it? It is a media player object. And what is the media player? Well, it's the one that I call just do it. All right, so we've associated a video file, or we've made a variable for a player so that on event begin play, we can tell which video it can play. So open source or open file. I forget which one. We'll have to see. So to reiterate, because that's kind of convoluted, we made a reference to a video player that lives on the lives in the content browser, and we're telling it to pull a file that it can play from the hard drive on event begin play. So let's go see if this works. There we go. All right. Man, this is getting good. So there's one other thing that I'd want to maybe do is that when I look around, though, he's kind of, he's a little two-dimensional. And so this is one of the things that the game engine is really great at calculating. It's knowing which way I'm facing. It's called a forward vector. We're going to do that constantly next week. We're going to be doing raycasting. But I want to know, if it knows where I'm looking, it always knows where to be perpendicular to me. And that's called billboarding or camera facing. So there's a thing called a billboarded material. Let's make a blueprint for it real quick. There's a thing called a blueprint. And we'll call it BP billboard. And inside of here, we can have a billboarded material. And we tell it what to play. This looks really complicated. Maybe it's just the one that was called billboard. I hate when they change these things on me and I don't know. Billboard. So you see how no matter where I go, this thing is always looking at me. That's what we're going to do here. So it's a way of you can't peek behind the video texture. All right. So let's just see if we can get this actor in here. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's one of them. Do it. So it's not reading it, so let's go for the other one. Boink. And put in our texture. Just do it. cool. I'll get rid of the other one. And there he is, always looking at us no matter where we go. Just like my nightmares. Just like my nightmares. So here he is in the world. 10, 10, 10. Maybe make it bigger on the actual properties of the thing. Yes. There we go. I don't know that button for size and screen space. That's something different. Let's undo that. This will be good enough for right now. We can mess around with it later on. Just want to get this. So, one's always looking at me. Terrified? I just love making art for you guys. You're so appreciative of my art. Because we're drawing close, if you guys can give me just 5 more minutes, I want to show you 360 video playback, and that'll get you through all the video textures, and we'll do all the interactions next week. So I don't know if you guys have taken a drive in the engine, but right now we're only showing our content of our project. You can actually show all of our engine content as well. And if I click here, I can come down and look at everything built inside of the engine. So here is 6 gigabytes of assets that are inside the engine. And the reason I pointed out is because inside of here is a sphere with inverse normals. What does that mean? It's looking inside instead of outside. You know how we put in spheres? Just get rid of all that. We put in a sphere in here, and if I made it big, when we walked inside of it, it's invisible, right? Because the normals are facing on the outside. We can always make the material double-sided, but that's rendering 2 videos at once, and that's not performatively correct for us. So what we want is a sphere. Oops, I don't even know what I deleted there. A sphere that is inverted, and that's what this one is. Right? So I can't see it on the outside, but on the inside I see it. Let's make that bigger. So now, see how I can't see it, but then when I'm inside, I can see it fully. Let's make it like 50 by 50, 50. Right, so this is like what this skybox is on, right? That's this inverted sphere. And now, if we took an image like, so I've now taken something from my engine and put it in my project. That's probably a bad workflow, because if I manipulate this, then I've manipulated the one that's inside the engine. It's not horrible, because if I put up the Epic Games launcher, it'll say repair engine, and I press that button and it'll figure out what I did and fix it. But the proper workflow here is to take this inverted sphere and move it to my project, and make a copy of it in my project. So I have assets and I have meshes. If I do this, I can copy it here, leaving the one in the engine completely untouched. And then I have my own. And that's really important to kind of remember. So now this comes in here. And let's do 50, 50, 50. Okay. And then I went and I downloaded one of those maps that we looked at when we were looking at equirectangularness. So if I go to textures and I import it in, and it was in my downloads, I had, let's see, where did I put it? Or maybe it was in my imports. Imports, and then I have this map. So this equirectangular map, we'll create material out of that. Any image, this is super low resolution, can be an environment, right? We don't have to build our entire world. We can have something that's a little further away. Also, it has collisions on it, so it pushed me out of the sphere. I need to go back to the sphere and say no collisions, so it doesn't throw me out. Cool. And so now I'm in a really horrible. Wow, that's just so horrible. I thought it was huge. No, it's not. It's tiny. I am not happy with that. What is that? Okay, anyway, so I don't use this one anyway. I'm going to make I use that other video file that I have, and then we'll be done for today. So I know I need to have another media player. I'm going to make a media player. I'm going to Control W to copy this one, and this one could be video file, or let's say sphere. This one is going to be pointed at we need a new media player because we only have it playing back one at a time. So let's bring in another media player. Media player. And this one's going to be called Media Player Chaos. And I brought in this really cool equirectangular video. Right. I just downloaded this from YouTube. Just a bunch of cool textures. Cool. I literally searched equirectangular video on YouTube and downloaded this. There's a lot of samples online. YouTube is just where I grab all my stuff from. And then, so now back in our blueprints, we can get a reference to this and say, do two things when it starts. Sequence, both open up this source and then also open up the other source, which is chaos. So I have two media players and two video files, and I'm assigning a media player to video file. Okay? And then these things are both going to be turned on. If I look at this media player, it says that it's going to play on open. So all I have to do is open the file and it'll automatically play. Okay? And if I want to loop and such. Okay. So now if I take this chaos and make it a material, it's texture, and make it a material, I can kind of, let's just throw it in. It's a little off. It's not the resolution. Let's just play it a little bit. Talk about chaos. All right. It didn't quite turn on. There it is. Oh, neat. It's taken over our Shia LaBeouf, unfortunately. Just do it. Chaos. Media sphere appear. I need to make sure that I have its own media player. Didn't do what I was saying I was doing. Allocating just do it to just do it, and allocating chaos to chaos. And the chaos video actually has some black at the beginning, and there it goes. Cool. So now we're in this chaos world. But it seems a little distorted, right? Like that line should be straight across, right? It's bowed. So just a couple of more little nodes in the material. Let's make it go into emissive. And we need to take our camera vector, camera direction, camera position, camera vector. And then we need to do a long lat to UV conversion. And it's converting it from this equirectangular to an actual. We could just play it back doing this way. And everything's much more aligned, right? Squares are actually squares, no longer bowed. One thing you guys can't see is that this is actually upside down. What we need to do is tell it to turn upside down on the UVs. So I would just multiply this real quick. It was a lot more apparent when I was using like a shot from the Antarctica like earlier today. But we just need to tell it using this color. We're going to say yes, this one's forward, but upside down. My Z needs to be inverted. So yellow means upside down, just so you guys know. That's a little vector math for you. So we hit play, and of course there's a couple of seconds of darkness at the beginning of it, and then it fades in, and it's playing correctly. And so this stuff can do up to 4K resolution. So you can make really high resolution video files for this. And then there's other considerations are that cool. So cool, right? This is just amazing. But anyway, so this can all be like live show control. You can, these can all be, you can VJ different world textures and take people different places. So it's a really easy way of doing assets. The one thing I would say is that if you haven't used it before, the video playback is the best compression for this is called an MP4 H.265. And Adobe Media Player or Adobe Media Encoder can encode H.265. And that's, especially if you're going over HD, that's the best compression for doing this kind of video file. MP4 is fine for HD and under, so Shia could be just H.264, but if you want to do this or get into stereoscopic, like over-under stereoscopic shooting, playback, you could do stereoscopic spheres, and it would look 3D inside a VR headset, and you want to be able to make sure you do H.265. That's it.